Hi, and welcome back to InstaVision. I'm Glenn Reynolds. Well, we're very lucky to have with us today Alfonso Aguilar. He's hosting America's first Spanish-language conservative talk radio show, now running in 11 top Univision markets. He's also the executive director of the Latino Partnership for Conservative Principles, and before that, he was chief of the Citizenship Office in the Bush White House. Welcome, Alfonso.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
So now I understand Obama's campaign manager, Jim Messina, said that the only thing Republicans have to offer Latinos is a chimichanga. Now, I've got nothing against chimichangas, but that seems kind of like an odd statement, doesn't it?
Well, it's a ridiculous and offensive statement, and apparently Messina doesn't understand that Latino voters are really angry at the president. He promised them in the '08 campaign that he would push for immigration reform, and he hasn't. And not only that, he has deported already 1.2 million individuals. He has deported more immigrants than any other president in the modern era. So Latinos are on to this president, and they're really angry at him. So it's hard to understand where Messina's coming from.
Yeah, I can only imagine the media reaction if a Republican made a similar remark. You know, it's just, I expect this won't have quite the same high profile, but maybe your show will change that.
Well, in our show, we're going to make sure that this type of statements get to the Latino community. You're absolutely right. If a Republican were to say something like this, you know, the media, the liberal media would go berserk and cover this on a daily basis. This is a ridiculous, offensive statement. It assumes that all Latinos are Democrats or liberal, and the fact of the matter is the Latinos are frankly very conservative, and they're very independent. They have voted for Democrats, but they can also vote for Republicans. So again, this is just the typical liberal mentality, which is very condescending to Latinos.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that because certainly in my community, there are actually a lot of Latino-owned small businesses, and I think that's a fairly common pattern around the United States. Are they aware of how the Obamacare mandate and a lot of other regulations and tax issues may affect them?
Well, I think they're slowly becoming aware of it, and we're certainly, through our show and other venues, trying to get that message to them. You're absolutely right. They're very entrepreneurial. They're opening businesses 3 times as fast as the national average. So the mandates of Obamacare could run many of these Latino-owned businesses out of business, and would certainly it would be very tough on them, would be very burdensome, and would mean that a lot of Latino business would not be allowed to grow, or they may have to fire a lot of people. It's very tough for Latino entrepreneurs.
Well, that's certainly a pattern we see with small business generally. In fact, Gallup just came out today and said that 85% of small business owners are not hiring because they're worried about the burden of Obamacare and regulations, and obviously that's an issue that applies across the board. So how is this whole contraception mandate issue playing in the Latino community?
Well, that's another decision by the Obama administration that has Latinos up in arms. For Latinos, this is not only an attack on religious freedom, but it's also an attack on their church. And as you know, for Latinos, faith is part of their culture, is central to their lives. So they're really offended. You know, this is an issue about religious freedom, not about contraception. And certainly Latinos are very angry about this.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to me. It seems to me that was a real case of misjudgment. But on the other hand, you know, the Republicans, I think, have not done an especially great job here either. I mean, Ronald Reagan said that Latinos were natural Republicans. They just didn't know it yet. That was 30 years ago. And why haven't they figured it out yet? Who's dropped the ball here?
You know, you're absolutely right. I think that the conservative movement has to understand that the Latino values are conservative values, that they can become an asset to the conservative movement, to the Republican Party. But they just assume that because Latinos, the vast majority of them, vote for Democrats, that it's not worth engaging them. And that's ridiculous. That's a reason for engaging them, to educate them about what the Republican Party, what the conservative movement stands for. Truth of the matter is we're losing the Latino vote because we're just not showing up. Democrats are. So they're going to end up supporting candidates and politicians who engage them, who show up in their community.
Well, you know, it's something people said a long time ago that you generally, if you want to get somebody's vote, you have to ask them for it. And I think that's right. Now, you talked about what Obama has done wrong on immigration, which is basically break all his promises. What are Republicans doing wrong on immigration, and how can they change it while still addressing real concerns that other constituencies have?
Well, I think it's two things. First of all, the rhetoric. We have to ensure that conservatives don't use a rhetoric on immigration that is insulting or offensive to Latinos. And at the same time, I think that we have to come up with an immigration plan that is framed in conservative principles, that is not amnesty or so-called comprehensive reform, but that goes beyond enforcement-only measures. I mean, we are the party of the free market, so why shouldn't we be for a workable guest worker program that would allow American companies to bring in the foreign workers that they need? And if we are the party of the family, why would we want to deport everyone from the country and separate, you know, literally millions of families? So I think that we can come up with a plan that is fully conservative, but it's not comprehensive reform or amnesty. So it's a question of toning down a rhetoric and at the same time coming up with policies that are conservative but go beyond enforcement-only measures.
All right, exit question. Who do you like in the Republican primary for 2012?
Well, you know, I'm not endorsing anyone. I think any of the candidates would be better than Obama. I have to give a lot of credit to Speaker Gingrich for doing precisely that on immigration, what I was talking about, coming up with a plan on immigration that is sensible, it's common sense, and is framed in conservative terms. It deals with border security. It puts it as the most important thing as part of its immigration plan, but it complements it with a guest worker program and for a reasonable legalization plan that is not amnesty. However, at the same time, I think both Santorum and Romney could certainly appeal to Latinos if they flesh out some of their proposals to reform the legal immigration system.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join us. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing your show spread to more stations nationwide.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
And that's Alfonso Aguilar, now hosting America's first conservative Spanish talk radio show in 11 markets, soon to be 111, I'm sure. Meanwhile, thanks to all of you for tuning in to us in all our markets worldwide via the globe-girdling Pajamas TV network, otherwise known as the Internet. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, have fun on the Internet. Thanks.